one from News 5 and one News PH from Mr. Von Belinario. Hello there. How special and different is this concert from all your previous tours?
It's very personal to me, first of all. So it's very special to me because Christmas for me is a very, very special time of year, as I'm sure it is for many people in the
Uh-huh.
Philippines. So therefore, you're carrying across a very sort of something that's very personal to many people. You're carrying that across to the audience, so it's actually quite a responsibility. So this particular concert, I took really great care on what pieces of music that I chose, and knowing that some people would like to hear some hits from me as well as Christmas music. I've intertwined all of these pieces together, so my hits may have a slightly different arrangement, so it has a more Christmas feel. Obviously, some of the Christmas songs, there are traditional ones, there are religious ones, there are fun ones. There's a complete mixture there, but everything intertwines beautifully. Also, it's I took very special care in creating a very visual treat for everybody. So it looks, it's intimate show, but it has a very
Uh-huh.
spectacular look as well, and it creates many moods.
It sounds like it's going to be a treat for both the ears and the eyes. So it's exciting. We can't
Yeah.
wait to watch it. All right. Now we have a question here from Manila Times. Mark Bonifacio says, how does it feel to be coming to Manila for a concert?
I have been to the Philippines and to Manila once before, and I was incredibly upset that I didn't have the time, because I was moving to another country for another
Uh-huh.
concert, that I didn't have time to really enjoy it, and I think I do this time. So I'm dying to, obviously, because of the city's history. I really want to look at some of the architecture. I know there's a very Spanish feel to the
Yes.
architecture. I want to obviously enjoy the food more. I want to
Mhm.
just get out there and enjoy the city, because I mean it's huge, and I know it's growing all the time, and it's a very important city. So I'm always interested in different cultures. So I think that's another reason for wanting to bring this concert. Also, I think that for people in the Philippines, it's a very important time of year. I know that you start celebrating even in September. Lucky you. So I felt that of all the countries I'm going to, this is particularly an important one to bring this to.
You make it sound like we celebrate as in literally the festivities here. I don't know why we do that. I don't know
No,
why we
no,
start
no,
celebrating in September, but I get it. I get it. I don't know why we do that though, but yes, we sort of do a countdown starting September.
I
As the
count
Burr
down.
months hit, we start the countdown and we're just so eager for the Christmas season. And yes, I think as a Filipino myself, of course, I do believe that we put so much value into the Christmas season. So yeah, it's gonna be a perfect way to celebrate with you here in the Philippines by then. And yes, let me just also put it out there that I volunteer to be your tour guide to show you the places to feed you when I'm in Manila. So letting you know that.
I will take you up on
Thank you
that.
so much, Miss Sarah. All right, so we've got another question here this time. It's from the Philippine Star from Natalie Tomada. Hello there. You came here way back 2004. Any memory that stood out to you on your last visit? Or what is something new or different that you want to see or do this time? I guess you answered a bit of that, but maybe you could say some more.
Well, I do remember having some extraordinary food there. And
Oh,
me being a foodie, and I love food, I'm very interested in it. It's certainly always a great reason to come back, apart from singing for everybody. So that is one thing I am definitely going to concentrate more on, is choose some really interesting and wonderful dishes from there.
well, there you go. All right, and we are excited for you to give us a feedback of how our food is for different people, yourself included, of course. We have a question here from the business world, Michelle Soliman. How did you go about the song selection and tell us about the stage production? Now, you mentioned earlier that it's going to be quite a feast for the eyes as well, but how did you decide to be nitpicky about this and that?
Yeah. Well, I think especially with the sort of Christmas repertoire, it was really a case of, obviously the first thing is to find pieces that you're really suited to singing, because that's important. I wanted a lot of choir, because I always think that choirs represent angels. They have that wonderful feeling about people singing together, that wonderful thing. So there's a lot of the songs have a lot of choir singing along. I wanted to create a concert that had a lot of tradition in it, so pieces that people were very familiar with. I wanted to bring the religious aspect into it, the Christianity into it. So there are religious pieces in there. There are also some fun pieces, some more contemporary pop pieces, which bring in Christmas. And of course, because I know when I come to the Philippines, people always want to hear some of my hits. So I've chosen hits which fit well into Christmas. They're about celebration, or they're about sort of like personal thoughts, those sort of songs, and I've linked them all together. So that's really how I've made a Christmas show. And also for the visuals, the visuals are very intimate and very beautiful, because I always think with Christmas, although there's a lot of bling and there's a lot of color and razzmatazz around it, actually people, they really enjoy the intimacy of Christmas, being with their family, very personal feelings, all of those sort of things. So I've created, as well as some fun lighting, we've created some very intimate, beautiful lighting for the show, which gives people a lot of feeling. And also the looks of where the orchestra are placed on stage, the way the stage is, it's almost like, as I said earlier, a little bit like looking into a snow globe, so that you come into our world, into the Christmas world.
You know what? I just have this feeling that aside from giving us a very fun performance, you're going to be making us leave the concert feeling all fuzzy with how you were able to describe everything earlier. I just imagine feeling all kinds of fuzziness come your concert, come the end of your concert, rather.
Yes.
Are looking forward to that.
Well, that's my job. That's my job, is to make people leave a concert with all the right feelings, all the feelings that they came for.
Well, again, looking forward to that. We have a question here from Jojo Panaligan of Writer PH. Hello. How special is it to put together a repertoire that is centered around Christmas?
It's very personal, putting a repertoire centered around Christmas, because you have to take into consideration people's feelings at that time of year. And sometimes it isn't a great time for people. They struggle some years. We all have been through sort of like Christmases that haven't been great. Either we've lost somebody, or we're feeling alone. There is that to consider. So as well as having a lot of sort of wonderment and beautiful pieces in this of the Christmas repertoire, I also have some songs that reflect on struggle. And that's important, because Christmas always brings those, if people are going through struggle, it actually enhances that feeling with people going through this. So I felt it was important to bring that element into the concert as well, that everybody is very, very aware of the struggle that some people are going through at that time of year.
I totally agree that, especially for the past 2 years, everybody has been through a lot of things. And once again, very much looking forward to having a brighter Christmas, hopefully this year. And of course, to match your concert, your songs as well. Here's something quite lighter. Here's a light question from Malaya of G. Trilliana of Malaya. She says, or they say, how do you spend your Christmas? Oh, aside from concerts, of course.
Well, my concerts always go on right before, so I'm absolutely exhausted when I get home to Great Britain. But our holidays generally, and in my family, because we're Christians, we celebrate really starting, although the 1st of December we start winding up like you do in towards it. But really it starts Christmas Eve, and it ends at the end of the Boxing Day. So it's like a 3-day holiday. And during that time, I have a very large family. I have 5 siblings. They have all their children. We obviously we have our parents, and then some uncles and aunts and whatever. So it's a lot. It can be 22 to 30 people around our table, and what we do on Christmas Eve, it's about everybody coming together. There's lots of excitement. It's about having a meal together. We'll generally have some fish or something like that, or cold things on the table, and then we'll go to midnight mass. Then the following day we open our presents under our tree. And then we have a huge late lunch, which goes on till the evening. And then the following day is Boxing Day. And that comes from an old tradition of basically people that had a lot of food and wealth. They would box up everything for people that didn't have so much, so that everybody enjoyed a wonderful meal at Christmas. So that's our 3-day. And then I think we're all tired of each other by that time, and then everybody goes off to their homes.
That sounds like such a nice tradition, the whole Boxing Day.
Isn't that great? I know it is. It's lovely. I mean, we're not doing that, but it's a day to remember that, and it's talking about having a wonderful time, but it's a time of year when we have to think of whoever we know that's struggling, that there are people out there that are struggling. So it's that sort of, it's a charitable day. It has that kind of feeling about it.
Truth be told, I'm really glad you actually cleared what Boxing Day is. I hear that all the time in social media and pop culture, but coming from a country that adores the sport boxing, I thought of something very different. So thank you so much for clarifying what Boxing Day is. I was thinking, are they really big fans of Manny Pacquiao? I'm kidding, but yeah, thank you again. It's a very nice tradition you guys have going on, and yeah, we do have some stuff similar like that, but again, it's really mostly family centered. So yeah, it's quite similar. Your traditions and our traditions here. And thank you again for sharing how you guys go about your Christmas. And although I know that you're so busy with work on Christmas, it's so nice to know that you could still manage to actually really spend time with your family during the Christmas season, during Christmas Day in general. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Okay. We have a question here from Koji Morales of a 103.5 K Light. What is the most unforgettable Christmas story you have, and what song would you associate it with?
Do you know, I think obviously the first Christmas I can remember of being a baby was completely magical. Obviously, I'd never seen anything like it, and watching the lights go on the trees, the presents going underneath the tree, going to church with all the lanterns and the beautiful sort of lighting that they use in the churches. It all was very magical for me, very, very mystical. So that was probably my most unforgettable Christmas. And I would probably associate with that the song "Silent Night." It's a beautiful song, and it can be sung in the German language as well. But that's the song I associate it with, and I am singing that in this Christmas tour.
I was just about to ask you, and yeah, thank you. We are looking forward to that rendition of Silent Night. Thank you so much, Miss Sarah. Okay, next question we have here from the Business Mirror, Edwin Salian. Do you have any particular favorites among the pop songs that you've covered? And will we be hearing some of them in this concert, if you're willing to share those information?
Yes, I'm definitely singing some of my hits, because I know that people wanted to hear them, and obviously, they're celebratory pieces that I chose. So we've got a wonderful choir singing Masquerade, which was in Phantom, and then we do Phantom of the Opera, which is it's interesting because you always colors red and dark, and I think it will be a fun sort of gothic Christmas piece to to do at that time. So yes, there'll be some renditions of some of mine done in the more Christmas spirit.
That's interesting because a lot of us here, of course, are fans of Phantom of the Opera, and we cannot wait to hear your rendition, your Christmassy version of those Gothic pieces.
A few more
All
sleigh
right.
bells, things like that.
All right. Up next is a question here from Soundcheck Manila from Jamie Ortega. What are some of the most memorable moments of your career, and any plans to return to Broadway or West End?
Never say never about Broadway and West End. But to tell you the truth, I'm not sure I could manage those 8 shows a week anymore. Because, but then again, I do so many concert tours that often, we do a lot of performances in a week. So maybe I would have the strength to do it. I'm not sure, but it's always wonderful to get into a different character and play somebody other than yourself. That's what would get me back there. But the first question, which was, what was the first part of the question?
Oh, what are some of the most memorable moments of your career?
Oh, right. Okay. Do you know, I would say actually doing the 2 times that I've sung the theme song for the Olympic Games. There's something, like with musicians and sport people that do sport and are stars in the sport world. They're the 2, a couple of the things that bring, no matter what's going on with countries, wars, everything, it tends to, sport and music tend to bring people together again, because we all love music, we all love sport, and so I think singing those theme songs and being there at the Barcelona Games, the Barcelona Olympics, and the Chinese Olympics were incredible moments. So I would say they're the most memorable, and what happened within them as well. But I could write a book on that. So
we would buy that book.
Yes, but no, they're the most memorable moments.
Thank you again for sharing those. And seriously, though, we would probably book with all your many, many gigs before, with the many experiences you've had. They sound so interesting, especially with the way you describe them. So it's safe to say we're probably going to buy a copy of that book. That imaginary book you've got going on. All right. We have here a question from, hold on, where am I? Oh, here we go. From Broadway World Philippines, from Oliver Oliveros. Your name will always be attached to the Phantom of the Opera. How do you feel about the show evolving to be more diversified since it has cast its first Black Christine on Broadway?
Sorry, say that last bit again. I didn't quite hear you there.
It's all right.
Say
Your
the question
name will
again.
always be attached to the Phantom of the Opera. How do you feel about the show evolving to be more diversified since it has cast its first Black Christine on Broadway?
Do you know the wonderful thing about Phantom of the Opera? We never even thought about it at the time. We were just all trying to put on a show. But what I do remember about it was that right from the start, it worked. However we worked with the story, whatever we changed, everything worked about it. It was one of those pieces that were meant to be. It was like a sort of wonderful jewel, a wonderful story that everybody sort of could relate to. So no matter, with all the performers, no matter what sort of creed, what colour, wherever anybody came from, if they're really wonderful at what they do in the singing and the acting and everything, they're just perfect for the part. And so it's been lovely watching the sort of legacy, in a way, that all of us that were working together at that time, and especially for myself and Andrew Lloyd Webber, that really, that's, he wrote the music very much formed on my voice and me being there, because at the time I was very young and very very sort of going through a lot of my training, and he learned a huge amount about that, so he was able to sort of follow in a way through the story my life as well, and him being the composer. So those two characters, sort of like a Christine and a Phantom, almost sort of creating all of this wonderment. And so it's a pleasure to see all the new performers coming up and taking on these roles. It's wonderful. So yes, whatever the world brings, whatever sort of diversity there is and difference, it's all a wonderful thing, because at the end of the day, people are just showing how wonderful they can be playing those roles that we all initiated and started.
You suddenly got me thinking about Andrew Lloyd Webber, coaching you through the whole endeavor of the Phantom of the Opera. It got me thinking of sing, Sarah, sing for me. How was the line of the Phantom there? I'm sure Andrew Lloyd Webber told you to do that. Literally.
It's kind of art mimicking life, really. I mean, that's what that show was about. Not completely, obviously, a fair amount of Hollywood goes into it, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
some pizzazz and drama.
There were a lot of personal things in that. Piece, which is, I think, one of the reasons why it works, because it very much came from the spirit of the people that were working on it and trying to make it work at that time. And, as you know, with just art that you look on in museums or on walls or whatever, the most special pieces are the pieces that really come from the artist's soul and what they've been through in their life and what they think about. So that show, in a way, Phantom of the Opera is a little bit like that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for sharing also those bits and pieces from your time at the Phantom. All right, here's another question from Manila Bulletin from Annalyn Husay. You've led a very illustrious career as an artist. What remains to be on your bucket list? So this is interesting.
I mean, there are lots of wonderful things. I could keep making music. I would like to work on sort of composing more as I get older. But there are things that I really feel I missed out on, which are sort of school things. Like I would have liked to have got a degree in English. I would have liked to have done philosophy. I'd have liked to have worked more on my piano, those kind of things. So they're my sort of personal bucket list things which I want to do. And it's very funny actually, because all my sort of friends of my age who have not travelled with their work, they're all now saying, right, we're now in retirement, we're going to rush off and go all over the world. And I'm thinking, well, actually I've been all over the world, and I want to do the thing. Yes. So I want to do sort of different kind of things, but I think that I'll always be involved in some way in the arts, and maybe that will be down to sort of composing or just appearing in shows here and then. I don't know yet. I don't know. Maybe I love doing plays. Maybe I'll go more into the acting side and play sort of a few roles, small roles, whatever. I've had such an illustrious and wonderful life that I feel happy to go with whatever really God and the world has planned for me.
Well, if you still plan to go into more of the arts, just don't forget us here in Manila, because we would definitely buy a ticket for that. And again, you're just so fantastic. Okay, here's a question from the Philippine Daily Inquirer from Alan Policarpio. Can you tell us about the kind of preparation or discipline that goes behind a demanding concert tour? Do you seek additional lessons or training for your voice?
I actually do continue always to do training with teachers and professors, because especially in the female's voice, our voices change. They become richer. They take on sort of different sounds and tones within them. So I've always taken great care, and I work with different people all over the world to keep this up. It's very important. You're always learning, and especially if you're very interested in voice and the vocal sounds that are made within that and with other people's. It's very important to understand sort of different forms of teaching, sort of that are now present and not so old-fashioned, and also going into the future. So this is a personal interest of mine anyway. So I would say I'm I'm probably training every day for about 2 hours, and if I'm working on repertoire, it will be longer than that. So yes, it goes
Wow.
on. It will
Wow.
always go on.
A true master, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. 2 hours a day minimum. It sounds tough, but that
Yeah.
is exactly
Well,
why you are who you are.
interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it's also, you have to remember that the vocal muscle, I mean, we're like sports people,
Mhm.
really. It's something you have to keep going, keep strong, and work with all the time. So, and I'm one of those people that unless I can give audiences my best, there's no point in doing it. So that's why I keep everything up so carefully.
Awesome. Thanks again, Miss Sarah, for answering that question. Now we've got a question here from Gilbert Kim of the Daily Tribune. You have a new album coming out titled France, which will be released on the 20th of November, exclusively in France, and digitally on the 6th of November. What is your favorite song from the album and why?
Um, the French album. It's. I'm not sure I have a favorite. What was so lovely about doing the French album was that I was able to work, and I've always loved France. And I have a small home there in the south. It was lovely to work with all the different artists, that French artists on the album, and go over there and do the lovely TV shows that they have in Paris. It's very lovely in France. They have a huge respect for artists, and a lot is done for them. They're very careful with them, and we really, really feel that. We feel that sort of love from the French people to artists. So it was a lovely album to make. Of course, a lot of the songs have been done in different ways on various other albums that I've done. So it's very enjoyable to do some of them mixed with the French language as well. So but it is, as you say, it's exclusively for France, and people, I think, can buy it outside, but it's mainly released for that particular market.
Maybe that's my time to finally learn how to speak the French language. And maybe first thing is to learn the French language. Second of all, buy your album when it comes out. Hopefully by then I'm already good to understand the music. But yeah,
Yes.
again, I'm very sure it's something wonderful. At the release, the album is going to be wonderful. All right. Now we have a question here from the Daily Tribune from Natalie Tomada. Oh, rather from Natalie Tomada of the Philippine Star. Being in the Philippines for being in the business for an incredible 40 years, what advice can you give artists about having longevity and staying power?
My advice, I'm afraid, is rather an old-fashioned one. It starts in an old-fashioned, old-school way, in that you have to be prepared to put 150% into it. If you want to be truly great and have a huge, long career, you have to kind of devote a lot of your life to it, and there are a lot of sacrifices. This in a nowadays sort of society, obviously with internet and everything that we have available to us, yes, you could get famous very quick, but it doesn't necessarily mean that would last for that long, because you have to have the sort of material of yourself being at excellence to sort of then carry that wonderful moment that you have in the media. You have to be able to carry that on through pure hard work and through talent and what you've put together yourself. So I'm afraid it's a bit sort of school teacherish what I'm telling everybody here, but when I was young, the whole thing that we followed was, because you couldn't get famous quickly when I was younger, it was about being as good as you possibly could, working as hard as you possibly could at that, and attaining excellence in whatever you did in the arts, and that was what we went by. So that's really my advice to anybody in the world about working in the entertainment industry and the arts industry. Yeah.
hard work, but I don't want to work.
I know, but it's you have to. Yeah, and then I mean, the hard work, which isn't always enjoyable, is actually what makes the final result, if it's beautiful, enjoyable, and you feel very sort of satisfied by that.
The accomplishment. I get that. And that is why I cannot be someone like Sarah Brightman. I'm just here to host press cons because what you do, the things you do, and the hours you put into it, it's just wow. And I guess again that is what makes
Yeah,
Sarah
but
Brightman right now.
believe me, yeah. Believe me, I'm not perfect. It's something that I always keep in mind, but I don't always adhere to it. You'll always get those lazy days when you go, oh, I just want to hang out with my dogs and do
Oh,
and eat
total
a lot
same.
and have fun.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to still squeeze and hang out with your dogs and just eating this and that and all that. But again, thank you so much for being such a wonderful person, such a very hardworking person to give us the music that you do. And of course, we cannot wait for December to come to actually listen to your performances live on stage. All right. I've got one more question for you, Miss Sarah. Well, actually, not really a question, more of asking you to give a message to your Filipino fans.
I'd just like to say thank you, all of you, for being such wonderful fans and being there. We do receive all the messages that you give to us, and keep an eye on all of that social media side. But just to say that I'm really, really looking forward to coming to see you all. It's been a long time, and now we've had this very difficult last 3 years over with. It's going to be joyous, and I'm just looking forward, and lots of love to you.